Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. I'm your host, Sir Stephen Top of that, the third at your service at DD. Of course, let's get to the point. Why this one is called Message to All. Now, the reason I'm doing this one, obviously, is a breakdown of everything we just recently talked about. For the last 14, 15 videos, I presume now they're enough with everything else that you needed to know, of course, with the engines, the maps, everything else included. There'll be more videos coming your way. Don't get me wrong, this is not the last. But this one's an important one now more than ever because I think you should know if the engines, let's say, the timeline for Thomas and Friends started in 1845, which then totals up right to the future. Now, that includes my own timeline plus my own granddaughters and my sons. Now, the wife is hidden for obvious reasons, for safeguarding purposes, etc., etc., etc. Now, I don't need to tell you that I could go to Orsted and then actually start looking around for scrap, because that's not what I intended to do at this moment. So, the message to you all from me, the Sir Stephen Top of that the third, at your service, where I am, is that getting to the point of it is that I was speaking to my mother, Dr. Hatt, this morning, and regardless to what we were discussing about it, I said, you better tell them on the internet fast what you just told me, because eventually they're going to have to make a decision, or you make the decision for them, because you're a higher up officer on this case. The thing is, what you know about the B12 Hazel is connected to me, yes. So if she doesn't get named Hazel, all of our legacy goes down the toilet. Now, for that reason, the B12 was preserved for one reason. There were supposed to be three of them. One, two, and three. Two got scrapped, one got preserved. The B12 you know as 8572 or 61572. Her name is Hazel. Because since she's worked for your former railway companies, I've been hearing from the grapevine line, like the Anglia Railways, I would say, in the British Rail era, she got mistreated, misguided, so she feels preserved on the North Norfolk Railway as 8572 and 61572 preserved, right? Everybody thought this was a damn joke, but if you destroy her, you destroy our legacy. And it won't go with the tweet either, by any means possible, in any means, and in any aspect. My mother also stated this morning, she said, look, if they kill off your legacy, then they will have the diesel timeline straight away. And the diesel timeline isn't present, and the people are trying to prevent it. The public, the community, the taxi drivers know about my existence, of my role, of course, indeed. So, in every day, I'm trying to preserve Hazel in her former state and form and her legendary status as the B12 we all know and love. Quite honestly, she's family, and that is correct, of course. And that's just come out of my own mouth and all. I don't use sound mixing material or any job for that matter. And the reason why, you see, there are only two hats left over. One is me, one is Lady Hat, and one is my mother. So work it out. If Dr. Hat dies, oof, which it may not happen at the moment, it goes down to me. So then you're asking yourself the biggest question. Who actually physically started it all? It wasn't Robert Audrey, that's for starters. He was just a writer that preserved history, knowledge, but no one puts it all together to put it correctly done. And so what happened? So all overall, Dr. Hatt is still alive. Sir Charles Topham is retired, and I am now active as a fact controller. Work it out, third gen, obviously. My mum also decided that we should tell you that to keep the legacy going, I will have to be the fact controller that everybody wants, needs. You see, we focus on people's needs, not wants. This is not money making. This is all realistic. If a Norfolk Railway still doesn't believe this, ask them if they're running the NWR, the North Western Railway Company. Because that's what they're running under in secrecy. So if you work it out, the North Western Railway Company does exist, and it will run, and it will continue to run in its highest steam ever. Because Steam Team lives forever. Why? Because we outwit the diesels all the time. But every time we get stronger, we always tend out to be faster and more efficient. So realistically, if you really look at down at the chain of command, you see, both of my grandfathers sacrificed themselves to protect the secret, to protect me. But in the end, if my mother became Dr. Hatt, you already know the Hatt family tree, don't you? In certain aspects, except that my sister is my cousin, so I can change that for you automatically. But in reality, that is true. That's no lie, no deceit, no dishonesty. But overall, so it's not a joke. No matter what way you look at it, I can speak. I can speak to my engines, and they know exactly what to do every day, every night. They don't have to be lectured. I don't have to give them a naughty treatment. Why? Because I respect them. Because they're my friends, connections, and colleagues. They all roll to one. Why do you think the generation number two, second fleet, second generation fleet left the North Norfolk Railway? Because the diesel team felt they could do everything better. So what's happened? The diesel team has actually let the diesel engines fall to the ground and let three steam locomotives be rebuilt on top of that. The five men that are behind me are the people that know what was going on after they died. So now it's my turn. So now, physically, mentally, I'm okay. If you think like I'm a totally nutball or whatever, which I'm not, I'm quite intelligent for a man at my age. I'm nearly 40 years of age, but I look like a 21-year-old. So realistically, who's lost the plot? Not me. If Dr. Hat exists, that means all my engines exist, but they are all in different places, safeguarded, preserved, but also even the realistic engines are running the railway lines now, not the actual diesel or electric. How many times do you see an electric train actually break down and then the steam locomotive has been rebuilt before your very eyes, behind your very own eyes? I seems believing the seeing, which I know is true, right? You won't see it until you believe it. But you got your son Stephen Topham the third here at your service, and basically you got everything else. Don't be so spoilt, as they say. We're not, we're not like just saying you don't deserve it, but we need to fix this timeline. And the problem is the timeline needs to get fixed so we don't have to worry about it later. Because it will eventually go down to my granddaughter, who'll be the next one down the line of the North Western Railway Company, or the North Norfolk Railway, obviously, being honest. And then you also will have, she will take over the North Norfolk Railway, and then Norman Spencer will come in for 1 week's trial. I will say no, because that's the answer, and that'll be a no-no. He could bugger off, excuse my French. He will try everything in his power to get rid of me. And then he will try and scrap that B12 and the rest of the engines that we got on the North Norfolk Railway. So then if that happens, goodbye to my mum, goodbye to me, and my wife, and my son, and my granddaughter. So work it out. That timeline won't exist anymore. So what happens if that timeline doesn't exist? I try to explain it very nicely right now, and it's all true, and it's all clear, and it's all crystal. It's all in black and white. In any aspect, I am your Sir Stephen Topham Hatt the Third. And then my mother wants to make it quite clear that I prefer to be called Stephen for short, or Sir for short, at max. For a lot of them, normally narrators of the show, normally of Thomas and Friends that ended on season 24, could call me Sir Topham Hatt, normally, as it would do in the show. But at the end of the day, if you look at it logically, the timeline played correctly. I started working on the railway in 2001 because I was adult, not a child. As a child, I was on Toby and the Scout Gentleman timeline. So I worked it out. It worked in 5 years against 5 years. So my private contact from America had to state this very clearly indeed. And it was very clear and crystal indeed. He said everything was happening all in truth, and all in facts, and logic, and everything else. And it's all coming crystal clear. And it really made it quite clear indeed. Now, the fact is, now you got your Stephen Topham Hatt the Third, and now you got to wait for his wife to show up. Then Richard Topham Hatt will be the next one down the line. Richard will be part of my third generation, and then in the fourth generation will be the granddaughter that everybody was waiting for. So basically, the Thomas the Tanks and Friends storybooks and TV shows are real life event, a real life timeline. So what happens when people start to meddle it and try and change it when they can't? It's set in stone. So look at it as it goes. I'm playing my timeline correctly, but look at where it's leading to Norman Spencer, but he isn't arriving yet. And I'm looking, and they'll probably be about 10 years' time, 15 years' time before he ever shows up. So work it out. It's all logical. I was born on the 10th of October, 1983, as it was predicted, and it was all shown. The island of Sodor is real, but it's in 8 pieces. But the track layout is mostly on Norfolk upside down. But no one doesn't give it down because they don't believe it. Seeing is believing. Believing is seeing. It's all of it. Seeing is believing. Believing is seeing. Just, just to let you know, we run on magic that people can't see. I'd just like to let you know there's more to this story than just a children's fantasy version of it. There's a realistic timeline involved, and people are trying to fix it, and so am I. indefinitely. But overall, I'm relaxed, calm, cool, and collected all the way through it. It's just that we've got a lot of knowledge to tell, but it'll be in the book, but we haven't named it yet, so watch out. It'll be book one, volume one. Let it be volume two, volume three, four, five, and six. And it could be a little bit more than that. Just be very patient, guys. Please, and definitely at all times, of course. You know, you've got all the evidence near enough. You got your Y7 and your J70 on the move. You got your K2, which can be rebuilt from scratch because the blueprints are all hanging up. So work it out. It can be rebuilt by van number 46, Edwards class, can be rebuilt without a hiccup. But if that B12 gets renamed, my mothers and myself, we won't exist no more. We'll be classed as ghosts walking around the streets. That's what we've been classed as. And it will also be the same for my engines. So Hazel has been my safeguard since I was a little boy. I've been travelling along with her. So for her to be repaired from last year was a delayment on the diesel team's part. Now work it out, diesel team. Oh shit! It's um it's um it's Sydney. So work it out. So realistically, I am paying attention to all the conversations and everything else. So realistically, as you see, the timeline is all in truth and it's all in logic. So in layman terms, it's all coming out all in truth. There's no lie. My name has been anagrammed from birth certificate to my bank account, all anagrammed, which is true in any aspect. So if you want your Steam team to survive, we did say the Steam team lives forever. So we live forever. The Diesel team doesn't. Why? Because they keep breaking down. So if you really want the Diesel team to fall, which they can do, keep being seeing is believing. Start believing, subscribing to this channel. It's very important. Very important channel indeed. You don't need to go and eat carrots and rabbits and so forth, or ask for a beach. The magic is already shown in front of you. Steam team lives forever. Steam engines live forever. But as long as we keep believing, the steam team is one side and the diesel team is the other. 12 divided by 2 equals 6. There's 6 to 5 on each team. So work it out. 5, and then you got 5 equals 10, plus 2 equals 12. You got the whole team of the diesel and the steam team together. We call 12 as the mutual number. When we divide ourselves, we are good versus evil. Because we have to fight to keep things alive. Steam team lives forever. That is correct. The steam team and the diesel team are two separate teams. Why do you think the clock is rotating a little bit? And knowing everything we see is actually the truth. If you were living in the United Kingdom, you would see everything unfold in front of your eyes, not just a prediction. So it's happening all in truth, as Wild Norwester would say. But this has nothing to do with Trainsy, for God's sakes. So, it's nothing to do with Trainsy in general. The facts were told in Trainsy. Yes, that's true. I'll give it a benefit of the doubt for Wild Lester on this one. But the thing is, the realistic side of it is a little bit behind schedule. So when you pick up a timetable from the North Norfolk Railway, you have a steam and a diesel department, don't you? Right? That's them fighting it out. And I don't like it. Nor would I ever. Indeed. Because all it does, it makes confusion and delay. Of course. And that's true. Indefinitely. Okay. So you can see where it all goes. So if you really want the Steam team to survive, stop meddling with Hazel's name indefinitely, or you will kill us all. Thank you.